Welcome everybody to the fifth webinar of Strategy International. We have the distinct pleasure of having with us today two experts in a very interesting field, in the field of information technology, of information security. We have with us the friend of Strategy International, Mr. Notis Iliopoulos, who is highly specialized in information security, having about 26 years of experience on the field in positions of increasing responsibility. And he served as a CISO in Greece, the Balkans, and the Middle East. Notis has handled the establishment of new business units, numerous deliveries of projects, operations efficiency, boosting revenues, and innovation in service delivery. Notis holds an MSc degree in information security from the Royal Holloway and an MSc degree in management of business innovation and technology. His research interests mostly include applied risk management methods and the convergence of digital and physical security in the corporate environment. We also have started his own Mr. Elias Aravandinos, who holds a BS degree in electrical engineering and computer technology, and also an MBA. He's currently a PhD candidate in the Department of Informatics and Telecommunications of the National and Kapodistrian University of Athens. Mr. Aravandinos has worked in technology marketing and management consulting for large vendors and Wall Street companies, including KPMG, Lassen Technologies, Maravedis, ICG Research, as well as Columbia Institute for Teleinformation in New York, and also for government agencies. His research interests are about cloud security, public safety, and ultra broadband networks. Mr. Iliopoulos and Mr. Aravandinos, hello and welcome to our fifth webinar.
Thank you.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here with all of you.
Hello, everyone.
Mr. Iliopoulos, I will start with you. I will start by saying that the expenditure and the awareness regarding information and digital security are increasing. We're increasingly interconnected with each other, both for socializing and both for carrying the necessary transactions that actually formulate a large part of human economics. At the same time, the successful security breaches are also increasing, whether they are on a personal or on a corporate level. In a nutshell, and by reading behind the statistics and the trends, how would you say the attack surface looks like? That is, for our less knowledgeable audience, how do the attacks seem to take place? And what is that the malicious individuals are taking advantage of, and which are the methods that they use, and which are the main targets of them as well?
Okay, thank you for the question, Joseph. In order to reply to that, I have analyzed the statistics, the trends from different types of reports in order to get some valid perception. And of course, I will blend them with some of the on-the-field insights that we are having as security professionals. So let's start from the top. Let's start from the CEOs. And based on the annual global CEO survey, they always go after, the CEO perspective about the risks that they are afraid of, in order, to the risks that might affect the resilience and viability of the companies they manage. So for the second year in a row, we can see that all the risks related with cyberspace, they level up to 49%, followed by global health and pandemic by 48%. What is important to also note in that information is that information security and data privacy are becoming part of the corporate objectives of the companies. So the CEOs, finally, they are convinced that both privacy and information security are important in order to achieve the required level of resilience and viability for their companies. CEOs, it seems, at least based on the trends, that they acknowledge the need to empower and support their Chief Information Security Office and also to include him in the decision making. So there is a sense that the CEO level and the C-suite level is trying their best to implement a level of information security and privacy adequate to the importance of the information they handle. But in reality, if we again check behind the statistics, we can find out that the number of incidents and the number of successful attacks exponentially increased for the last 2 years. And we have reached, especially last year, to the highest number of incidents that we have experienced for the last many 20 or 25 years that we have these ratings. At the same time, we can also find out that there is a huge increase in the technical vulnerabilities. What I mean by technical vulnerabilities is all those vulnerabilities that we can find out, not we, the nice malicious users, attackers can find in the software that we daily use. So the number there, especially 2022, last year, it's double the amount of technical vulnerabilities found the previous year. If we now have a look to the most important sources of threat and the type of attacks that used in order to successfully break into the digital infrastructures and of course to have access and authorized access sources and information, then based on another report, from the data breach investigation report that comes out every year by Verizon, we can see that the main actors there is the external malicious users, and that and they cause something like 80% of the incident. To be more specific, out of these incidents, 46% is related to denial of service attacks, and 17% is related to malicious, any kind of malicious software, either new kind of ransomware, any kind of malicious software. The main targets are mainly two: anything related to web application, and then the corporate email. Consequently, we can understand that the digital resources, which are becoming the number one and number two targets, are of course the servers that they host the web applications and any kind of software that they have in, and of course the email service. We assume, of course, that all of this is known to the professionals that they're dealing with information security, so they somehow treat the security programs accordingly. It seems, again, based and looking behind the scenes, behind the statistics, that substance is not working effectively there. Even though we know that only 40% replies that we have dealt with those particular threats. The rest, with a percentage something like 38%, they said that we are mostly care about the risks coming out of remote working and for moving to the cloud. So they admit that they have not done quite a lot in order to mitigate all those threats. So this is the contrary here. As you said in your questions, we have increase of budgets, we have increase of awareness, but at the same time, we don't even do the basics. So that's why a number of incidents are successfully converted to breaches to the corporate environment.
So in essence, what you are saying to us is that while businesses do increase both their activities and of course the amount of IT support they actually need to function, the attack vectors multiply just because there isn't the added awareness and then added know-how to go about providing such attacks, whether those are software attacks or those are what we would call social engineering attacks, where you may befriend an individual inside the company and by thus gaining access into some privileged systems and going on from there. Leading from this question, I will ask you another one. What do you think is that we do wrong? What is missing? Which are the obstacles that we need to overcome, and mainly in the corporate environment?
Okay, I will start again from the top. As we said in the previous question, CEOs and C-level executives, they think that they are doing their best. And this is a big problem because they have the wrong impression of what is happening, because it looks like they just have the misconception of what they are doing. They think that they are secure, mainly because they might hold an ISO certification. So they think that, we have the ISO certification in place, but this does not necessarily mean that the effectiveness of the controls are there. So they also have the wrong impression because they don't have identified any successful attack, or they cannot identify a successful attack. Because again, if we go back to the statistics, we can see that the average time from the successful attack until the moment that someone's in the organization really understands what happened is something like 1 month. So maybe there is a gap that we want to mitigate. Again, there is another misconception that chief information security officers are actively part of the decision making, where in theory this is true. What the CEOs of the companies talk among each other, they say, yes, we do that. But when it comes to the design, to the launching of new services, or when we have to collaborate with new third parties, we can see that in reality, this is different. The chief information security officer is not consulted at all, or best case scenario to be consulted after we have decided what we are going to do and mainly how we are going to do it. Another important misconception there is supply chain security. Supply chain for a company is another company, entity, third party that somehow contributes to the operation of the company and to the development of goods and services that the company offers. So there is again the misconception that third parties are only those companies that they provide us with tangible goods. No, third parties is also the companies that they offer us the software that we operate on a daily basis. The cloud providers are also third parties. So we can see that during the last 2 years, most of the organizations are including best practices related to supply chain security, but mainly they focus on their key suppliers. Of course, this is a good thing to do, but we also have to focus on the suppliers that they're not so great for us. They don't have big value for us, because the majority of the attacks are coming through those third parties, because these third parties, they're not paying so much attention to their security. Going forward, another misconception, my favorite actually, is the penetration testing. So if you go out there and ask 10 security officers, 9 of them, they're going to tell you that the only type of risk assessment we're conducting annually is the penetration test. And of course, this is the wrong thing to do. Penetration test is the last type of assessment that you want to conduct after you have mitigated your most important risks. Otherwise, there is no value for you. And another misconception about penetration testing is that we make it easy for the companies that they offer that to them. So the best thing to do is to have penetration tests as one type of assessment among the other types of assessment that we have to do throughout the year. Architecture reviews, security risk assessments, supply chain assessment, penetration testing. So all of that combined, they can provide us with the right conception about the risks that are affecting our company. my second favorite misconception is what it is actually a buzzword the last 1 year and a half is the zero trust architecture. Zero trust is not something new, right? Information security has been built about the essence of zero trust. I don't trust you. So I don't trust anybody to log into my system until I have some precautions in place to identify the identity. I don't allow any kind of traffic unless I trust it and direct it to the right resource that I want to have. So we can see that during the last 1 year and a half, mainly the vendors, they are selling products by name them zero, that they are part of the zero trust architecture. This is correct, but we cannot just buy products. You first have to build the zero trust architecture, the zones that you have to layer your internal security, and then to buy all these tools that they have to collaborate, they have to speak with each other, or they have to complement each other in order to actually have an effective zero trust architecture. So it's not product, it has to do with technology, it has to do with architecture first. Another misconception or obstacle is the budget spending. Budget goes up, but again, the majority of the budget is directed to technology. Of course, this is not necessarily bad because we need technology in order to enforce security policies, right? But just buying technology, one item by one item, it's not something that will help us. The most effective way to use technology is to use it as part of the technology. And I usually refer as an example to the example of DLP, of data leakage prevention. There is a tool that is called like that, but data leakage prevention is a concept. You need to classify your data, you need to tag your data with the classification label, and then to use a number of tools, not just one tool, in order to make sure that these data are managed properly. So it's not one tool. The tool is part of a broader solution. And I will go to the last two ones that have come to my mind. First of all, we're talking a lot about the lack of information security professionals, which it's correct. I mean, we are not having the capacity mostly, and I will also say the capability of what it is needed today. But there are some mistakes that we are doing that make this a little bit larger than what it is. You will notice that most of the chief information security officers are having a technical background. This doesn't help a lot. We can also find out that a lot of companies, they are hiring penetration testers in order, to have them as resident penetration testers. These people are highly valuable, but if you just hire them to the corporate environment, they can sit idle for something like 60% of their time. But if you use them as consultant, they are utilized something that 110 of their time. So you can see the contrary here. We use wrong people to some positions that they shouldn't be there. So this makes the problem even worse. And last but not least, I will go for the true integration of information security in the operating processes of an organization. You can see that a lot of companies, they maintain a huge amount of the documentation, policies, processes, guidelines, so people getting confused. You can visit a client and see that they have, for example, 2 incident response policies, one that deals with information security and one that deals with physical security. Maybe they might have 1/3 dealing with IT incidents. To my opinion, this is just one process, how the company will holistically manage incident response. And we have such many cases. So we have to keep the documentation as small as possible, and try to put all this information security requirements to the already existed policies and processes of the company. That will help more, because information security is not just the problem of the information security officer, right? It has to be distributed among all the other roles. But if you keep it small and you inject the right portion of information security tasks to all the other roles in the company, you might have a more effective outcome there.
The nuggets of wisdom you have just offered us by answering my question is really what Strategy International is all about, providing cutting-edge answers to very modern problems. So thank you very much for your quite elaborate answer, which of course gives birth to many more questions as well. But in order to continue the discussion and leave the more other questions for later, I'll ask you a final one. How would you think a short strategy would look like? Which would be the main focus areas in order to actually enhance effectiveness and keep up with emerging threat landscape that seems to know no bounds, because as you say, the attack vectors have multiplied by a large factor the last couple of years.
Yeah. Okay. What we really need to achieve there is effectiveness. Okay, because we have the people, we have the technology, we have the knowledge. So what we need, what we lack is effectiveness. So, in a nutshell, we have to keep people informed, not with the traditional awareness. Just have someone that presents over PowerPoint. We have to discuss with the different roles, with the different departments, make them understand how they can contribute to that, and what are the risks that they have to face, and how they can help you. You have to run different types of assessment in order to have the holistic view of risks. I would go also for very visual, revise the existing documentation and keep it short, easy to be adapted, and of course, emphasize on how to integrate the information security within corporate processes. And last but not least, listen to the CISO, or let's say, choose the right person as a CISO in order to put some reliance on him and listen to him. Use him as a consultant in all these different activities that the company concern. This is, let's say, my to-do list. If to whichever company I go tomorrow, either they are certified, either they are fully sophisticated, or they're fully super duper information security. This is something that I always do.
So what you're telling us really is that despite the certifications and the operations put in place to actually guard IT security, it's always the human factor that plays quite a role in having the right person in the right role. Which
absolutely, yes.
And I understand. Thank you very much for this initial introduction to the subject. Mr. Ravadinos, you have the floor now. Mr. Ravadinos will proceed with a small presentation. Mr. Ravadinos, please proceed.
Yes, thank you very much. I think thank you for the introduction, Joseph. I think that everybody can see my slides now. Is it correct? Yes, Joseph, you can see the slides.
They're fine. Go ahead. Please put it into full screen as well.
Yeah. So we're going to continue this deep look on the cyber attack trends and incidents. So we're going to blend, I'm going to blend the cloud case with the cyber attack trends. As Joseph told you, I'm Elias Tarabantinos, and I'm a senior technology consultant that I collaborate with Strategy International. At the end of this presentation, feel free to send us the Q&As or during the presentation, or feel free to copy my email, ervantinos@strategyinternational.org, to send me any questions you might have around the subjects that I will cover. So in this presentation, first I will introduce you what we do at Strategy International, and then I will set the stage regarding the market conditions about the cyber attack and the cloud. Why are these so important now? What is the status of the market? And what are some highlights? Where are we heading? what is the trust strategy that we are proposing, and what can we do as Strategy International today for you, for the small, medium businesses, or for government agencies. So Strategy International, it is a think tank. So we try to build a new era of strategic consulting. Strategy International is based in Cyprus, and most of the team experts are working remotely, like myself, that I'm located in Greece, where we are helping with our expertise on technology, on strategic consulting, about cloud presentation. So this
Elias, we seem to be losing you. Hello?
Team that we actually deal and develop the strategy for our customers. There are also other teams, the cultural diplomacy, the computational strategies. So just to have a view that there are more teams that work around different topics. If we want to introduce what is happening today in the market, we say that as Gartner forecast, there is definitely a huge growth in cloud spending, that a market that will reach 490 billion was in 2022 and will continue to grow. More and more the customers are spending on cloud. So on this public cloud, we see that there's a tremendous growth. And of course, most of this growth is on application software that are directed toward the cloud technologies in 2025. As you know, the economy today is not that good. There are some inflationary pressures creating a push and pull effect for cloud spending. So in this uncertain economy that we are experiencing today, moving to the cloud is a must, because we will have lots of savings. There are so many benefits when you move your software, your infrastructure to the cloud. And today, more and more infrastructure related segment continue to move. So we see that there is a tremendous shift for this part of the company that are growing and are moving to the cloud. But always the question is, when you move to the cloud, what is the data security plan? Because definitely you are joining a different digital ecosystem that you might not be that familiar, and you have to protect now your company secrets and all the your wealth and your properties from the cyber attackers. And moving into the next slide, we're going to discuss about the cyber threats. So we see in the chart that there is definitely a tremendous growth of cybercrime costs, from 3 trillion in 2015 to 10.5 trillion by 2025. And why this is happening? Because specifically the small to medium-sized businesses, they need more consulting. They need more advisory services, because they have some insufficient security measures. There is a frequency of attacks, as we see that most have experienced a cyber attack in the past. And more these cyber attacks are targeted. They are targeted into different parts of the company, not only to the list of clients, but also they are trying to gain access into the logistics of the company. So the top 5 threats that an organization faces when it comes to cloud security, as also notice mentioned here in a more, let's say, listed way. We have to face data theft, the ransomware, as you know, is the malware attacks, the phishing and the social engineering that also most of us also are experiencing every day in our emails, attacks on third-party software and cloud providers. The cloud providers are the one that we are trusting, and we hope that they provide the best data security, but they need also to be advised. They need also to have a cybersecurity strategy in place. And of course, the denial of service attacks are the top 5 threats that an organization needs to be aware of and needs to be well protected. What are some cyber incidents? There are many cyber incidents. There are many dimensions. Except of financial losses, there is loss of productivity, reputation damage. Sometimes the cyber attackers, they focus on corporate secrets that they sell to the competition. There is legal liability. Sometimes when a cyber attack happens, we see what is the cost and then how many users were affected and how can we protect them in the future. And also business continuity problems, because sometimes some business might run out of business because of this cyber attack, because they can no longer operate because all the secrets now belong to the competition and they have no innovation and no competitive advantage. If we look at the chart, the cyber incidents by industry, we will say that mostly financial agencies are suffering attacks, the retail, the healthcare, they want to have access to the patient records and sell them to the or blackmail some patients. Also, I have seen that in 2022 there were many attacks in healthcare, as well as police stations or state police in the US. That seems that in many cases government agencies are not well protected, and they need always some advising and some risk assessment and some proactive strategy around cybersecurity. So according to Accenture, we see that the cost of cybercrime study that they are doing every year, 43% of cyber attacks are aimed at small businesses, but only 40% are prepared to defend themselves. So we see that there is an opportunity for us, for the cybersecurity experts, and for those that today are working for the small and medium businesses, the SMEs, as they are called in Europe, to defend themselves and to ask more for advisory service, for more consulting against this cybersecurity, against this cybercrime. Moving to the cloud again, here we have to blend and see what is happening to the cloud. So today we are dealing with a multi-cloud strategy because we have to be very flexible. When cybersecurity happens, for example, we don't need to lock into one vendor. So we need to have several vendors. For example, in a multi-cloud strategy, you might use the Amazon service or Azure or Google. For example, you might have your back office in Amazon and your ERP in Azure. So in case something happens, you are safe. You have your service on from your cloud vendor. And as we see, the multi-cloud networking market continues to grow by 7.6 billion by 2017. There are several migration strategies when we move to the cloud. So, for example, we'll see also in the last slide that we need to think of a complete strategy. First, we need to have a strategy to migrate to the cloud, and then we need actually to develop our cybersecurity strategy. That is the next big part that we have to think, and we have to do that at the same time. So first, we need to think what would be our cloud strategy. The rehost, that is usually is called the lift and shift, that we actually take some parts of the company of our corporate applications when we move to the cloud, or we do the refactor, known as platform as a service, where we migrate our infrastructure to the cloud providers' infrastructure and all the applications. So if we, for example, these are some strategies that I suggest. If we take one of these strategies, the next is to think of the operational risks. So then we need to have in place a risk assessment strategy. What is the data security that we need the data security strategy that we need to have. So first, when we migrate to the cloud, think of the multi-cloud strategy, the parts of the company that need to migrate to the cloud, and in the same time, we have to develop our data security strategy. And there are some operational risks into that, not only data security, but sometimes there are skill shortages, there is lack of centralized operational responsibility. That's why, again, some consulting, some experts need to jump here and help the companies, the corporation to take the right steps with their expertise. If we look at the chart of the small business, for example, we see that by 2023, there is a huge opportunity for the small businesses as they are migrating to the cloud, also to think of the cybersecurity strategy, where on the other hand, the larger enterprises are already into the cloud. They have already migrated most of their applications into the cloud, so they feel more comfortable with a multi-cloud strategy. So the small businesses, we expect most of their parts into a multi-cloud strategy. So one good, let's say, cybersecurity strategy with an effect on data security is the zero trust strategy. So we say that, as the notice mentioned, the Verizon's 2022 data breach investigation report showed that 82% of data breaches involved the human error, such as employees exposing information directly or by making a mistake that allows cyber criminals to gain access to the organization systems. So what is then zero strategy do? Zero strategy is actually developing the policies and the right security paradigms, is in the definition, to develop a set of restrictions to the users, to the assets and the resources internally and externally in the corporate network. So if we see in this chart, we develop a set of rules for any kind of access, for any kind of terminal, for any kind of device that the user has and needs to have access to the corporate. The first step is to identify the user, then we authenticate the user, then we manage in the step 3, we manage the privilege and we investigate the privilege that this user has to access the corporate network, and then we continue monitoring the user's activity into the corporate network. So again, this is one of the most common the zero trust strategy is one of the most common cybersecurity strategies that will be discussed a lot in 2023. And most of the business today are trying to apply this strategy into the networks. Of course, there are challenges for this zero trust strategy. As we see in the chart, when we develop the strategy, first we need to take the risk assessment and the prioritization. So we need to think what are the risks, what are the priorities for the users, for the applications, for the resources. Then we do the deployment and the review of the set of rules and continuous assessment. But there is a set of challenges that we needed to think. First of all, in this multi-vendors, for example, cloud environment that I mentioned, there is a vendor's lock-in that sometimes we have to be careful of. And if we have multi-vendors, there should be interoperability between the services, so the vendors need to communicate with each other and with the services, so we don't have any data breaches. Another challenge that is very important is to avoid the user disruptions. That means that we don't really have to develop all the set of rules at once, but step by step used and get adapted, adjusted to these rules, and we don't again lose any data or have any data breaches into the network or suffer from any network intrusion. Another very useful point and another challenge for the zero trust strategy is the trust level and the resource classification. So here we have again to develop the part of applications that need to be a part of the strategy. To grant access, we need to have all the list of the users that today are joining the corporate network. And as we say in the next point, we have to deal with the unmanaged devices. So here we have to set the rules for the bring your own devices, for example, that are not corporate devices. We need to set, to develop the rules, the flexible rules, so they can join the corporate network without any restrictions, but in a safe mode. So what is the zero trust path that the companies, the businesses need to follow? First, they need to not one size fits all. So they have to go step by step and work with experts or with consultants to make this decision. Then they need to prepare a study that defines the sensitive data and the applications that need to be secured. Then develop a plan to implement the zero trust security policies, which is very challenging and very difficult. Even if we have the sensitive data in place, we need, of course, to create the security policies in a manner that the corporate network is secure and the users feel also secure when they enter this network. And a final study that will allow identifying the users, what are the authentication, and how can everybody have secure access to the critical assets without any data.
Elias, we have some trouble with actually hearing you. So can we possibly...
Closing this presentation, yes, so this is my last slide for you. So cybersecurity strategy needs to be assessed. The cloud migration strategy and security risks need to be assessed. And some topics on specific strategies on cloud, on operation technology, security, and government agencies need also to be assessed. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much, Elias, for a very interesting, very technical presentation, which I think is a very glowing example of the manner of knowledge and the services that International can provide both to individuals and corporations, smaller or larger, in order to be able to A, succeed in their business, and B, in actually helping them to secure their IT environment. Elias, if you may close the slide, please. Thank you very much indeed. I do have a question for both of you before I leave our audience to ask whatever questions they would like. What would be some key areas of risks that actually need to be initially considered either by individual or large corporations? Elias, I will start with you first, since you were quite warm in answering us.
Yes, I think one, instead of I leave the key areas for notice, I think the best is first to deal with a proactive key risk assessment strategy. So instead of looking at the key areas, first we need to develop some key risk indicators that we need to monitor. And I think this will reveal the key areas of the organizations or of the businesses that mostly suffer. And in these key risk indicators that I also mentioned in my presentation, we can develop some thresholds, and we can continue monitoring these key risk indicators into a risk assessment strategy, so that will help organization protect the key areas of their businesses and of the secure parts that they need to have in the companies. So I think that the key areas that they need to focus is on the key risk indicators and the assessment risk strategy that they have to develop.
Notice what is what are your recommendations really on the key areas
Okay.
we initially talked about?
It seems that if we go to the detail now and getting a little bit out of strategy, it looks that next year, maybe the year after, the security of mobile devices is an issue. Not only because we are lose them, or they are steal them from us. It's because more and more companies are allowed bring your own device, which basically is bring your own risk at the company. So the security of mobile devices will be something. Corporate email, it's something that it has a lot of attacks there, especially with the ransomware and all this stuff. And basically, email is the technical part and it is the human part as well. So it's two in one. It's full danger there. Cloud security, it's an issue, would be an issue. And the problem there is that most of the companies are not have, revised their processes for cloud. Incident response, it's not the same if you're operating on the cloud and if you operate on site. So these have to be revised. Again, the risk assessment is different. All these APIs, all these management consoles, they have not been adequately tested. And last but not least, that it will always be there, is ransomware. The problem from last quarter of last year and what is going to follow is now that we are developing ransomware on demand. There is a market there, despite what we call dark web. Okay, there is a market there. I pay a developer and she can create a ransomware for me because I want to attack you. And we can see that.
May I interject there? And I have actually read a lot of times that there is indeed the market of people actually selling ransomware that are very specifically targeted for certain public systems, and which one could use for malicious purposes, of course, which is probably something that the general public does not know. But
yeah, exactly. And last but not least, we use what I'm going to talk about is that we used to see that on the movies like Mission Impossible and stuff like that. I mean, the hybrid war, the hybrid attacks. But this is happening. We cannot overlook the convergence of physical security and digital security unless in the corporate environment. We are not ready, but this is already happening. And I think this is one of the gaps that Strategy International can help the community to close that gap. I see that happening, and it's happening every day, but nobody has the willingness yet to put security under one corporate umbrella. But this will happen soon.
This human physical interaction is, of course, unavoidable, but is also an anathema in all forms of security, let alone digital, which I suppose always is a second thought for us, and even for seasoned individuals. You know, IT is something that just get a budget on, but actually training training personnel, and I don't mean specialized personnel. They may be lawyers, they may be financial analysts or whatever, and they do need that kind of training that will allow them to prevent from giving out information that may be used in multiple attack vectors against their company.
Correct.
I'll thank you both for your initial thoughts on the matter, which are very precious for our webinar, and is of course they are of course resplendent of the actions of Strategy International in this topic. I do have a question from a written question from the audience, and then I will ask people from the audience to actually open their mix and address to you if they want. The written question I have is on a corporate level, would such mandatory certificates like ECDL security be a sufficient stopgap measure to ensure that the whole body of the company is aware and capable of the risks involved in operating in the cloud and with IT systems in general?
May I go for that?
Yes,
Yes.
please.
Okay. If you have nothing in place, of course, something like that is something. If you, of course, adopt it the way it should be adopted and have it implemented. What I will recommend is go for something a little bit broader. Something like either the NIST cyber security framework or ISO 27001. Both are almost the same. I mean, they say the same things written in different wording. But what they try to establish there, first of all, let me tell you that we should consider both frameworks, standard and framework, as the minimum requirements for security, because this is what they are talking about the minimum requirements. So having that in place, have the guiding principles in place, you can, enhance that with topic-specific issues like EDCDL security that talks more about Office, about Microsoft environment and stuff like that. So go for the high level and then just implement these different sectors that you have there, digging into the more detailed standards, training, frameworks, whatever is there.
Right. Thank you very much. I will now invite members of the audience on whether they do have any questions. You may unmute your mic and actually address us if you want. Apparently, we seem to have covered most of the bases and questions from our audience. I do have a last question, and I keep coming back to social engineering. Can non-specialized people, the everyday people that work in a company, actually undergo such education and training that they can keep up with the constant pressure of not having somebody manhandle specific data about their company from them? Is that even possible? Because human interactions are always a given, and we start to trust people, or we're actually very easy to give details over the phone or over the internet, and sometimes even intimate details we wouldn't say person to person. So is the idea of actually training personnel, the human factor, is it something attainable, or is it really a dream that cannot be actually fulfilled?
By all means, it is attainable. It's difficult, but that's why we have to start, what I usually say, stop reading the headlines of the books and read the rest of the book. So by having, a general purpose presentation in the corporate environment about fishing, or by just running 1 or 2 exercises annually with automating fishing is not enough. You have to talk with people, and you have to do that repeatedly, annually. Forget the presentation, just gather small teams and make them understand what is going on. Make them, to always suspect what is behind that. And at the end of the day, that's why you have the information security professional within the corporate environment. If you are not sure, just call them. That's something, and just communicate with them. So my answer is definitely yes, but we have to do work on that.
So,
And
Elias, please go ahead.
I think also that in the case of the zero trust strategy that I analyzed and I recommended, in a sense, we managed to protect from, let's say, from a network intrusion issues and some very technical attacks. But definitely we need to educate the personnel. They need to be aware of all this phishing in a frequent basis, I would say, in a monthly basis, for example. And this could be part also of the information security officer. That is a task that needs to be, unfortunately, responsible for that. Because the zero trust strategy, as I said, protects a part of the corporation, of the corporate network, but definitely we see that in many cases there are some internal errors because the users are not that aware of this, or they might misunderstand some of the cyber attacks, and then boom, this happens.
So to recap, we use a suitable strategy like the zero, like the zero strategy you've talked about, the zero trust strategy. That's correct. We do employ professionals. We do employ strategy international to actually keep us up to date and give us the quality of consulting needed that can actually secure our company and help us progress. I would like to thank you both, Mr. Iliopoulos and Mr. Arabadinos, Notis and Elias. I would like to thank also our audience that actually participated in our 5th webinar. And there will be a lot of webinars to come from Strategy International, and I do invite you to actually participate in them. You will find details. You will always find details on our website. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you, Notis. Thank you, Elias.
Thank you very much.
I will thank you, Ms. Konstantakou. I will now bid you good night, and thank you very much for all the wise and technical details you have shared with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.